Now what will it be? Death or exile?
Welcome to another Film Exiles review. I'm Chris, and I'm with my friend
Lupe!
and we will be giving a short spoiler-free thoughts on Terminator
Dark Fate.
Yes.
Dum-dum-dum-dum-dum-dum-dum-dum-dum.
So I don't think we need to go too much into what the film is about. We know what Terminators are.
And if you don't, have you been living under a rock? And if you've been living under a rock, the Terminator is going to come and find you because you can't stop him.
Right, so basically Terminators in this universe come from the future into our present, and they terminate key individuals in order to prevent or to encourage future events. We are revisiting this franchise, which is a kind of new stepping off point, since it's the return of James Cameron writing and producing on this film, and he has taken this film to be a continuation of his original first two films. So it's coming right off of Terminator 2 Judgment Day. Expectations going into this?
Alright, so for me, I love Terminator 1. It's called Terminator period, but Terminator 1. I was really young when it came out, so I can't really remember. I remember it.
Were you even born?
Exactly. No, I was born, but I was too young, or maybe I saw it after, and I was just too young to understand. But I remember it was very gritty, very grimy. At least for me when I was a child, and it was scary. Okay, it was scary as hell. Terminator 2 became my favorite movie. It was my favorite movie for probably 10 years until Matrix came out and I got older. Whatever. Then Terminator 3, I did not like that much. Terminator Salvation, I actually love Terminator Salvation. I really do. And I feel like people didn't give it a fair chance. I feel like the only reason, I will die on this hill, the only reason why people don't like that movie is because it was spoiled in the marketing. Terminator 5 Genesis or Exodus or Leviticus, whichever one it's called, it's I don't think it's that good. So everybody has a consensus that the ones after 2 are not that good, and so James Cameron, really wanted to bring this, bring the franchise back because it's such a potent IP. Everybody knows that this idea is one of the best storytelling ideas and worlds ever built. So nobody wants it to languish or perish, or So people are pretty mixed in terms of having expectations of maybe it's not going to be good, but at the same time people kind of want it to be, and that's how I went into this. Actually being a bit optimistic.
So yeah, I mean basically everything after Terminator 2 I don't mind. I quite enjoyed them for what they are, but they did feel personally like a big departure from what Cameron had set out. Terminator and Terminator 2 are wildly different films as well from each other. Terminator being is pretty much a sci-fi horror film, and Terminator 2 is more of a sci-fi action blockbuster. So I've revisited the two films recently to prepare for Dark Fate. Terminator 1 is very cheesy. I don't believe it holds up as well. I do have a soft.
That catches me off guard so much because I remember it as being gritty and horror and dead serious, and that catches me off guard.
It doesn't hold up as well as I would like it to, but it's still a thoroughly enjoyable watch. Terminator 2 is an incredible film. It holds up just as well today as it did all those years ago when it came out. So seeing that James Cameron was going to be back in the fold for this, Tim Miller directing, a really good action director.
His sci-fi bona fides are legit. This guy is one of the best sci-fi directors.
I was super excited for this film. I saw the trailer and my buzz was high. Like I have been all in for this film since I saw that first trailer. In fact, I didn't even bother to see further trailers. I did also hear the nervousness around this film, but I didn't. It just bounced off me. I was not nervous going into this film, and thankfully, I can report from my perspective, at least, that I was not disappointed. I had high expectations and they were met. Is it as good as Terminator 2? No. Is it better than Terminator 1? Yes. For me, it's the second best Terminator out of Cameron's 3, and I really, really enjoyed it. There's obviously some aspects of the film that we can't really go into, but the main premise of the story is that there is a future war between Terminators and humans. We've seen that in the trailer, and an enhanced human comes back to protect certain individuals from a new Terminator that comes back. So perhaps we can talk about the enhanced humans, the actual Terminator, the physics of it, how you felt this Terminator ranks with previous models of Terminator and things like that.
All right. So the first thing I'll say, just to start off from point A, is the sort of time displacement sphere that they come in. I preferred the way they did it in this one, because I always thought that in previous Terminators it was kind of convenient in my eyes that they just land in like a perfect
they landed
spot.
perfectly.
Yeah, I always
I
was
think
like,
there was one in Terminator 2 where it cut a little bit out of a truck or something. But
like
basically,
that.
It was perfectly.
They tend to like land like perfectly like on the ground and or in the nice place. But in this one, it was kind. They appeared in like really awkward places, like elevated above ground or like just in some weird spots, and I thought that was a tiny detail, but it was so cool to see that was thought out,
kind of evolution
evolution of the idea, and just so I thought that was a nice update. Then in terms of them adding enhanced human beings, it only makes sense, because if we've lived with sci-fi for so long, and we've had conversations with theoretical physicists, and people have been thinking about this stuff. And sci-fi has been informing the real world science, and real world science has been informing sci-fi as well.
And even from a storytelling perspective, if they're coming from a future where whole Terminators exist, surely there'll be
augmented human beings. There'll be ways of, it's not that you're either a complete machine or you're a complete organic being. There's actually like a gradient. There's stages in between, and so we see someone who has had some enhancements to them, and it actually like makes the action a lot better. And she's able to go toe to toe with the Terminator, at least a little bit, to a degree, and it makes it actually just more visceral and more dynamic, and I thought that was like really cool.
So you brought up the Terminator. Let's get on to Rev 9. So this new model is the Rev 9 Terminator, and it is a mix of the way I see it, it looks like it has a mix of the T-800's endoskeleton with a surrounding outside, which is like the T-1000 from Terminator 2. So the T-800 being obviously Arnold Schwarzenegger's original Terminator. So I thought it was really cool to see how the let's call it the liquidy part and the solid part of the Terminator interacted with each other as well.
Problem solved the go. It was really scary, because the ways you can stop the solid state of the Terminator wouldn't work for the ways that you stop the liquid state of the Terminator.
Exactly.
So it was interesting to see that dynamic, and it just added a really like nice element to the action.
Yep, and it's just it does feel like a logical progression in their kind of in a technological sense. So as we know, technology always kind of advances, and you've got this T800 and how they advanced it to the T1000 in T2 really seemed like a genuine upgrade, and this also seems like a genuine upgrade. So I thought the Terminator was incredible. Now, one aspect I would say about this film is that it returns to the formula of Terminator and Terminator 2 in the sense that those two films were chase films. So you basically had the Terminator hunting down our beloved character or characters from the beginning of the film to the end, and it's that in the whole film is basically based on the chase. And this is how this film kind of progresses. I mean, there's obviously different kind of action sequences that take place in various settings.
There's a lot of action in this movie, and like that's something that we gotta say.
We're definitely gonna talk about the action. Whilst there is loads of different action beats that are very different to Terminator and Terminator 2, there is that through line of the chase and the hunter versus the hunted, and I thought that was bringing it back to its core roots, and I think that's something that original Terminator fans of the franchise from way back when are gonna really appreciate. So you brought it up. Let's talk about the action. Tim Miller.
This is a thrill ride. It's one where you have to like just grit your teeth, grab onto your seat, put on your seat belt, and you're going, and it almost doesn't stop. You do get, some moments of downtime to sort of, because your nerves will probably be shot to hell if it goes all the way through, but there is so much action in this, and it's varied action. It's not just one specific type of action.
So I think we can touch upon the kinds without going into specifics. So you've got hand-to-hand combat.
Hand-to-hand combat.
You've got guns and bombs,
of course, and
all
bombs.
of that
You've
stuff.
Got weapons. You've got airborne. You've got vehicle.
You've got chase sequences, vehicular chase sequences, which are amazing.
Like, you've got drone combat.
Like, this film's got everything. In terms of action, what you could dream of. Action,
and it's well choreographed, and just the danger, the sense of danger is never something that you take for granted. Like, this movie does have some cheesy lines and some humor, but it's in the appropriate places.
Yes.
It's not.
We got to talk about Arnold Schwarzenegger's comedic timing. He delivered some lines.
But for me, I didn't like them.
You didn't.
For me, I didn't.
I found them hilarious.
This is one of my problems with the film. I really enjoyed the film, but I felt like there were some story elements that I didn't buy from some characters. And I can't go into spoilers, and I won't, but there were some story choices that they did with two characters in particular. And one of them had to do with Arnold and some comedic elements, and when they came up, they were funny. I did giggle, but what I giggled what I giggled at was how ridiculous it was, and it kind of took me out of the movie, but it didn't ruin the movie for me by any stretch.
Well, from my perspective, the humor and comedy felt very much in line with some of the humor and comedy in T1 primarily. It's a little cheesy, but I enjoyed it, and as a big, as a big fan as you are of the original films, that was an element that I appreciated. Let's go on to the other actors and their performances. What you thought about them?
Let's start with Mackenzie Davis is the lead actress in this one, but Linda Hamilton is the star. She brought it. Like, I was just looking at her like, this lady, she can act. Like, I'm surprised that she hasn't been in like other stuff for all these years, and I heard she took a hiatus, and even if she's done stuff, she hasn't done a lot of big stuff. This lady can act, and I really love the fact that, I mean, not to belabor a point and draw attention to something that we hope in the future we don't have to draw attention to, she's an older lady, and she is a fucking badass.
Yep.
Excuse my
No,
language.
no makeup, no nice hairstyles, just authentic and fitting in with the badass character that we were introduced to
yeah.
20 odd years ago.
In my opinion, there's nothing wrong in looking hot while you're kicking ass. I enjoyed Atomic Blonde, and I have no problem with, women looking good while they kick ass. But the fact that, as you said, she's an older woman, it's not about
Embraced
a glamorized, pretty look to her, because we do see older guys kicking ass.
Yeah.
Like Liam Neeson.
Of course.
Denzel Washington.
Even Schwarzenegger in this film.
Yeah, even Schwarzenegger. So there's no reason why we shouldn't have women who are like authentic, and older and kicking ass. And she does it like she's a badass. And I want to see her in more action roles.
Yeah. And I will echo everything you said about Linda Hamilton. Like, fantastic. But this film is headlined by 3 women. Like, yeah, Terminator, Schwarzenegger, Gabriel Luna as well is the new Terminator. But this film, the heart and soul of this film is 3 women, 3 badass women, and not a Mary Sue in sight.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and that. This is a nice segue into something that I want to say in terms of like the story elements and the 3 women. So basically we see 3 sort of action heroes at different stages of their action hero career. So we see Linda Hamilton, who's the weathered, one on basically like, you can say she's still badass, but she's been doing it for a long time. And you see the effect that has had on her life, on her psychology, on her mental state, on her, physical health, everything. And then you have Mackenzie Davis, who's in the prime. She is right, at the peak of her powers as someone who's just coming to their power. Then you have the young lady, Natalia Reyes, who's Danny. And basically, she's a young person who's just thrust into
a terrible situation.
Into this situation and thrust into this. And, we see if she has a character journey, and, so she's basically like where Linda Hamilton was in Terminator 1.
Very good parallel. So we can talk about Arnie. Tell me what you thought about him.
No, I actually think that,
what about
he's
his role?
A star. He's a star. Arnold is the Terminator. His role, as I said, I had just a slight problem with a decision they made about his character and how they introduced his Terminator into this. But I enjoyed him, and he was necessary. Yeah, he wasn't superfluous, or he was actually necessary to propel the story forward and to keep the action fresh. And it's funny because we'll go to Gabriel Luna next, and you can talk on Gabriel Luna's Rev 9 Terminator was so badass that they actually needed 4 people. Yeah. Basically to go up against this.
They needed a Terminator, an advanced, an experienced Terminator hunter and
has human person, being just to go ahead and talk about the Rev 9.
Let me give you one more on Arnold Schwarzenegger and how what you touched upon about how he was necessary to the story. And we don't see that often when we have lead female hero-centric films. Usually what happens, what we've seen in especially Wonder Woman, is the belittling of male characters. Arnold Schwarzenegger was necessary to the plot, but he didn't overstep. And it really added more credence and kudos to the 3 female heroes. I thought it was expertly written and expertly delivered on screen. Gabriel Luna, ominous is the word that I would put. He doesn't speak much. In fact, if anything, maybe a few lines. But he's got a look to him that you don't want to cross this guy. And he's savage, and he's gutting people left, right and center with no remorse or emotion. Steely look, but the devil in his eyes,
Right.
it was, it
Like
was,
he's a really good actor. I don't know him from anywhere, and I'm gonna have to go research like what he's done, and I'm looking forward to what he does in the future.
yeah,
He's a very good actor. There's also something, a bit of a criticism that I have for his Terminator is that his Terminator had a lot of human affectations. If you remember in Terminator 1 and Terminator 2, you could clearly tell the bad guys because those guys they didn't have any human emotion,
yeah,
and they it is logical that in the future general AI is going to be able to mimic our human twitches. There's
yeah,
something very, very unique about the
mhm,
way human beings express themselves that's very naturalistic that robots aren't yet able to replicate. When you
yeah,
see a robot try, it just looks weird. But I still feel like I would have preferred that cold blooded, emotionless, um, basic take of like the T-1000 Terminator 2 and the T-800 in
yeah.
the first one. That's just me personally.
Okay, so let's move on to the score. Um, as you know, Terminator 2 has one of the most incredible, iconic action hero scores ever. Um, I still well up when I watch the end of Terminator 2 and that score hits at the moment where he's saying now I know why you cry and and all of that. It is powerful. How did you feel Junkie XL Tom Holkenberg fared in this iteration, this let's call it sequel?
All right. So I've been a big fan of Junkie XL. If you follow me on Twitter and you have conversations with me, he's one of the music composers for film that I have called one of the new gods.
Hmm.
And since I have been very vocal about how great I think he is, and I've said he's better than a lot of people, I'm also going to have to be very vocal in saying that I've been disappointed with his work, and I was actually like quite disappointed. Now, the score is there. The original score is there, and I think it's well used, in my opinion, but he didn't bring anything new. And it is possible to use something, old while bringing something new. Listen to Mission Impossible Fallout score.
Yeah.
All right. It's the same Mission Impossible
Dun, dun.
melody that we know. But what Lauren Balfe did with it to update it and to twist it and put it in different situations and then add new themes for new characters is freaking incredible. And I felt like in this score, we had the iconic theme where when you hear it, your brain is buzzing, and in
Mhm.
the emotional parts it carries that. But then the other parts was completely forgettable, just basic, almost temp
Yeah.
music, so to speak. I was quite disappointed. I've been disappointed with Junkie XL for a while. I'm sorry to say.
So yeah, I mean, I would say I would echo that. I was not particularly impressed with the score. There's nothing bad in there. There's nothing that makes you think, well, what a strange sound, or that doesn't fit in. It wasn't. It felt fine. Um, there was you mentioned the classic theme. There was one point in the film where I was like, okay, so now the theme's gonna kick in, yeah. This is where the theme kicks in. Now is where the theme kicked, and it
I
never
just never
came,
never did.
and I felt a bit disappointed because it was a perfect moment for that
But wouldn't that be
classic
on the
theme.
director though?
Could be, yeah. It's probably a harsh criticism for to throw the Junkie XL's way. I would say that what needed to be in the film was there, but I kind of wanted a little step up, like what he did in Mad Max. Fury Road was god tier, and why it was that is because he elevated it. He elevated the film with his music, and I don't feel that this film was elevated enough. And this film could have gone from a I don't score films, but just for argument's sake, it could have knocked it up a notch, say from a 7 to an 8 or from an 8 to a 9, had the score been a bit more powerful, let's say. So,
Briefly, we could talk about cinematography. briefly. We noticed that it was shot on digital
within the first 2
within
seconds.
the first 2 seconds, and for me that's a poor choice, especially when you're doing films that have a retro sensibility to them.
Yeah.
I think it's always advisable to have the look be as close to the originals. And part of the look of a Terminator film is grittiness.
Yeah.
There should be a grittiness even in the look. And when you shoot on photochemical film, you're more likely to get that, grain. It's a tiny grain that's almost imperceptible to the eye, but it gives it sort of a grimy, gritty, dirty.
It adds texture to the film.
Yeah, look to it.
Yeah. It was. The film starts, and this is no spoiler. The film starts with some water coming up the shore, going in and out. Mm-hmm. And there's just something about, I don't know, is it a different frame rate? Is it a different, is it the contrast? It just felt like it was shot on a camcorder.
Yeah, like it was.
Or a camera that's used for live sports.
Yeah.
There's something about the motion of film that takes you into a kind of a fantasy world. And when you record motion on digital, it feels
a bit too
alive,
real.
Too real. That's right. So we watched the film together, and the water came on the shore, and we turned around, looked at each other, and thought, like, digital. So that's just a little thing. It didn't. For the rest of the film, it didn't do any damage. It's just a little peculiar nitpick that we have, and but yeah, the film looked gorgeous. The action looked brilliant. The explosions looked fantastic. I can't recommend this film highly enough. I will definitely be hoping that this film does very well at the box office. It kind of leaves room for a sequel, though it is a contained, complete story. So don't be thinking that you're going to be left on a cliffhanger or anything like that. It's a clean, complete story. But there is hope for future sequels, and I would very, very, very much like to see one.
Same here. As I said, I did have a few problems with it, so I don't think it's like the most perfect film in the world. But it was a whole lot of fun. It was a thrill ride. I mean, this is one of the best action movies of the year.
And the film had heart.
Yeah, it did. It actually did.
Had story and heart.
It had story and
you
heart.
empathized with the characters.
Like, for me, it's especially with action movies, like when they try to do like those emotional beats, sometimes it doesn't land with me. But this one, it kind of made sense. As I said, I don't want to give spoilers, but when you see it, there are two character choices that they made, and they have to do with Arnold Schwarzenegger's character and the young girl. Her name is Danny in the film. Mm-hmm. There were two character choices that if they could have just tweaked those a bit, it would have been even more perfect to me. And I really want people to go see this, support this. I don't see how people would ignore this and go see all the superhero movies. Let's give a chance to all types of movies, all types of stories. Go see your Marvel and DC movies, but also go see things like Terminator and Alita Battle Angel, and let's just have all these stories, and let's just have fun with a diverse, multiple, slate of films.
Absolutely. So that is our spoiler-free review of Terminator Dark Fate. I hope you all go and support this film. It definitely deserves it, and let them know that we want sequels. We want more Terminators. And until next time, stay exiled. We'll be back.